Right. So I went and did a bit of research for this one because I love local folklore, and I found some really fantastic stuff while I was trawling through Wikipedia, which is where I get most of my stories from. Yes, Team Wikipedia. I learnt of the many stories of the Long Man of Wilmington. One of my favourites is that the Long Man of Wilmington was a giant called Adam and had a wife called Eve and a rivalry with another giant over in Firle, and they killed each other, and then his wife died trying to rescue him, and she's buried underneath the horse on the downs and he's buried underneath the Long Man of Wilmington. But that's not the story I'm going to tell you tonight. I had a look at Bramber Castle and found an actual historical story. There was the Lord of Bramber Castle at some point. The king wanted to make an example of him, so took his 2 kids to the Tower of London, and they starved to death in the Tower of London. And apparently, on Christmas Eve, you can still see the shades of these 2 young lads coming up to the doors, or where the doors of Bramber Castle used to be, begging for a warm meal to put into their empty bellies. But that is not the story I'm going to tell you tonight either. In the end, I went to Bosham, and Bosham is that way, I think. That way, towards Chichester. And Bosham was supposedly the place where King Canute stood at the edge of the shore and commanded the waves to go back, and they didn't. And Bosham's great. Bosham's got lots and lots of tales attached to it, but one that I particularly like is one that is associated with Bosham Church, because Bosham Church had a fine set of bells, and these bells would peal out across the landscape, a beautiful ringing, chiming chorus, and everybody who heard them, it made their hearts feel a little bit lighter, it made their souls feel a little bit closer to whatever they called the divine. It was a wonderful, magical thing to hear. And because these bells were so beautiful, were so well known, the fame of them spread. And because of where Bosham is situated on the coast, it spread out across the seas and was heard by a band of Danish pirates. And the Danish pirates, these Viking men, they heard about these bells, they heard about the beautiful noise they made, and they went, bells that big? I bet they'd be worth a lot of money if we could get one of those and heft it down onto our boat, bring it back home, melt it down. We could make chests full of treasure from that. So, one dark night, a Danish pirate boat sailed up into Bosham, and a group of shadowy figures crept on up the hill, up to Bosham Church, and up they went, up the bell tower, all the way up to the top, and they had a look at these bells. Oh, what a fine and beautiful set of bells they were. And even just standing in the bell tower, you could sort of feel that the air rang ever so slightly just from being in the presence of such pieces of craftsmanship, of such beauty, of such elegance, of such grace. And they had a look and they went, that one, the tenor bell. Oh, it was great. It was the right sort of size to get onto their boat safely. It was big enough that they could get a good prize for it when they'd melted it down and turned it into other stuff. That's the one. And the men stepped forward and the captain put an arm out. Don't wake the bells. We can do this. We can take this bell and we can take our prize, but we must not wake a single bell, for if we wake one, it will wake its siblings and it will wake the countryside and doom will befall us. These are holy bells. These are old and ancient bells. We must do this silently and holily. Is not quite the word that I mean, but that'll do for now, with respect. So the pirates crept up to the great tenor bell, and working as a team, each holding on to the great wrought sides. They loosed it from its holdings at the top, and they carried it back down the bell tower, sweating and straining, with the sweat beading on their foreheads, their eyes bulging at the weight. And as they got down to the bottom, one of the men slipped and went, "Oh," and the captain went, "No! We do not swear in front of these bells." And so the pirates carried the tenor bell out of the church, down through the dark, down the hill towards their boat. And as they were heaving it up onto the side, one of the men forgot himself for a moment and said, "God's teeth, this bell is heavy." And as he swore, God's teeth, the bell in their hands gave out a great loud clang that rang out across the countryside, and all of the bells back in the church began to ring. Na 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 na. Lights started to go on in the village. There were sounds of dogs barking, of people getting up out of bed. "What is going on?" And the pirate captain said, "I told you not to swear in front of the bells. They're very sensitive. Get it on the boat. Get it on the boat." So they took the ringing tenor bell onto the boat there in the centre, and they began to row, rowing away and out into Bosham Channel. And as they went, they could see that people were coming down to the harbour side, that boats were starting to be set up and loosed from the side. And they went, "What are we going to do?" And one of the men cried out, "God's blood, can't we go any faster?" And as he cried out, "God's blood," another terrible swear, the great tenor bell went clang and came crashing down through the top of the boat into the very bottom of it. "Don't swear in front of the bells," cried the captain, looking at the great hole that was now in the middle of the deck and hearing up on the hill, "Nang, nang, 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 nang." They rowed, and they could see, not too far, were the great swirling, roiling clouds of a sea fog. "That way," said the captain. Off they went into the fog. They stilled the boat, they killed the lights, and all of the men went down to the lower decks, and they hugged that great tenor bell, muffling the sound as it thrummed and rang gently, almost as if it was trying to call to those bells back up on the hill. And all of the pirates waited with bated breath in the middle of the fog as the boats came out from Bosham and searched and turned and finally made their way back to shore. And as they heard the shouts and the cries of the retreating fishermen, the men finally breathed a sigh of relief. And one of the men, leaning on the bell, said, "God's teeth, that was close." "No," said the captain, but it was too late. Dong! With a great peal, the bell went crashing down through the bottom of the boat, sinking like a stone into the water. The boat filled up and was sunk and was lost without a trace, lost with all hands. The pirates were gone. They had met their doom, and the bell was gone, all the way down to the very bottom of Bosham Channel, where it is said that it remains to this very day. And the bells at Bosham Church still peal out their beautiful chimes, and it is said, if you could make your way out to exactly the right place in the water when those bells were ringing and listen very carefully, you can still hear that tenor bell chiming back to all of its siblings high up on the hill there. And that is the story I have for you tonight. Thank you very much, everybody.